in theory, things are easy to say. It's so and so. It's like this. It's like this. It's like this. But yeah, I'm sitting with 20 years of experience. What you're telling me now is not working. You see, that is one of the greatest challenges. You can't get a definition for poverty out of the dictionary. Because poverty for Kaya Litsa is not poverty for Bishop Lavis. When you acquire your degree, you acquire your degree by reading and writing. Maybe the conversation would be, as we move along, as alternative systems of education. Alternative curriculum. Why do we have to have a school program that runs from Monday to Friday? Why can't it be Monday to Wednesday or Wednesday to Friday or just Tuesday to Thursday? Within our development, we say, if you get an opportunity to go and get a formal qualification, do that. We're not going to tell students not to not do their matric.
Because they have got the skill, yes.
Yeah.
You are watching the EduKnowledge Exchange podcast show, the place where we share, learn and engage with students, graduates and experts on their academic journeys. From personal challenges to inspiring success stories, we uncover the real experiences behind university and college life. Have you ever wondered what truly goes on in the minds of students and graduates? The struggles, the breakthroughs, the game-changing tips that can transform your academic journey? We bring you raw experiences, expert advice, and unfiltered conversations to help you navigate university life like a pro. Hit that subscribe button and let's dive into the ultimate knowledge exchange.
You are currently pursuing Bachelor in Community Development. Can you please outline to us as to what does the community development that you are focused on get to cover?
Okay, so basically the community development program that I'm currently doing is basically a 4-year program that has been designed within the last, I think 12, 13 years in movement towards a professionalization of community development. Now what we have found out, but we have realized many years back, 20 years ago, many of what you would find in communities is the soup kitchens. You have different programs in various communities where people are doing all extraordinary work, especially in places like Bishop Lavis, Yalsis River, Mitchell's Plain, all around the Cape Flats, and there's also Kaya Litsa, Guguletu, and Nyanga, and those places. Various community development programs. You would find there are people that have been working 15, 20 years doing a specific skill or a specific task. It might be a training program to teach children to play an instrument. In another setting, you would get a person doing woodwork in an informal setting. These people, these workers within these communities, have never had an opportunity to get formal qualification as community development workers. So the community development professionalization, or the degree that I'm doing, speaks to the standardization of community development practice. So someone would ask a person in a community, you are doing community development, you would do community development, do you have any qualification for it? I say, no, I'm doing this for 20 years, I'm doing this for 25 years. Do you get any pay for it? No, I don't get paid. I just get paid stipend to go when there's maybe funding coming from somewhere. Sometimes we do fundraisers, but we just live as we move along, right? But now, all over the world, there's been this question: how do we set community development in a professional context? Because you would ask people that have worked prior 1994 in the struggle. You would have organizations such as the UDF, even the ANC, and all these activist groups, women movements that have existed in that time. They would have to go underground. They would have to not show themselves visible because of the bans that was put on these organizations. Yes. You would know, based on the history of, and I don't want to go into that conversation, but I want to highlight the issue of these professionals that were at university that couldn't complete a degree.
Yes.
Maybe they started out 1 year, 2 years. some of them might have not been able to complete a degree. But what has happened now is, for 15 years as an accountant, they've been doing the books of an organization prior 1994. Some of them have been doing music, traveling all over the world with the likes of Yuma Sikela and these guys, Jonas Gwangwa and Ezra, all these big musicians like Robbie Jensen, one of our great saxophonists from Elsis River.
Yes.
These guys would travel outside of South Africa with no paperwork as musicians.
But they have got the skill to actually be in a community development space.
Yes, they can be in the space. But the problem with that is that these NGOs and these executive directors of these organizations, they no papers, but they've been working.
But you know the content specifically.
Yeah.
So perhaps to get to understand that, you advocate for the professionalization of community development. You mentioned something like perhaps getting to collect data in communities to say, are you being compensated for the development that you get to contribute in your society? And people will respond with no's. So perhaps to get to understand, do you advocate for professionalization with qualification or for compensation for it to be recognized formally as a qualification that gets to be compensated for with contribution to community development?
Yeah, let me reframe it like this. Community development is being professionalized. As we sit now here,
yes,
it is being professionalized. There's buy-in from government. In fact, those that graduated last year, the first group to have been graduating from this program.
Oh,
it's a new degree.
impressive.
There hasn't been a degree like this ever before. It's a professional degree. You get a social work degree, but social work is not community development. However, the social workers have been working inside of that. So what has happened now, it is at the same level, honors level. So when you qualify as a social worker, you get your honors equivalent. When you qualify community law, you get an honors equivalent. Now, what I'm trying to explain to you with regards to the where the NGO sector was in terms of these guys that have been working there, when 1995 came, these guys had no certificates. They had no qualification paperwork now to go get a job. You see all these
To further exercise their skills.
their skills, but they've got this 15 years of experience in managing an NGO. They've got 15 years of experience in developing the books for the organization. They were doing accounting. The one was doing professional fundraising and management. You see, within these organizations.
But now they can't be recognized due to qualification, but they do possess a skill.
Yes.
Okay.
So then what happened is 1994, post 94, 95, 96, we had a situation now because the struggle that was fought for the liberation of our people has now come to a completion because we have our democracy now. You see, so all these leaders that were there now, they couldn't get into parliament, they couldn't get into jobs. So now the universities developed the program, the RPL program, which is called the RPL, Recognition of Prior Learning. That is the history of the RPL. So they said, okay, you've been working 15 years in an organization. That experience is equal to 2 years at university. That experience based on an assessment is equal to 3 years. But you must do this 18-month course to complete the whole thing so that we can offer you the degree.
How did you get to pursue that Bachelor of Development in Community?
So in 2000, to 1998, I was fortunate to go to Jazz Workshop, which is a jazz training program. 2000, I went to another program where I started. It was a professional music training program. I couldn't complete it because there was difficulties that was happening. I couldn't travel to campus and those type of things. So I decided, okay, instead of pursuing this thing, I'm going to start my program. I'm going to work in the community, right? I'm going to try and get as much out in terms of my skill and my ability. So much of what I've learned is what I've got from music books and later on the internet I started watching the YouTube videos, get the videos, VHS, you know VHS,
Yes.
the cassettes. I used to have that, record stuff, learn from there. So then it moved on, and I realized, man, hey, I'm going to have to get this qualification. But I couldn't get in because I must have a matric to get in. You see? I must get a matric. So the only route for me was either to go to do night school in 1999, or I must do RPL. But the RPL, it couldn't work for me at the time, because from 1994 to 1999, a change came in the RPL process. So there was a lag behind for the professionalization of community development, because of inability of the government at the time to buy into it, because we needed these structures, because of certain policies that was in place. These policies still needed to be readjusted and redeveloped and changed so that it can balance out with what the intent was for the professionalization. So why professionalization and why I got into it? It's because so that there can be some credibility attached to the work that I do. Even though there's no level of accreditation that can be measured against the experience that have been gained over a period of 30 years. I'm 44 years old. I've been there 30 years. I'm the oldest student in my class. All of them are between 18 and 21 years old. So now, I've been pursuing this thing all my life. This is a long life journey.
Okay.
So why the professionalization of community development? Because of ethical reasons. The ethics of community development practice after 1995 was in such a way that people started to understand how to register their organization, get their PBO numbers. You get the MPO number, you get your PBO number, you get tax exempted, you get your funding from Lotto, you do your program. But then you had these leaders being unethical by not doing with the money what they're supposed to be doing.
Within the community.
Within the community. And over a period of 25 years, there's enough evidence to show that there's been a malpractice and this mismanagement of these resources, and you find that they were supposed to go to the children or the people that they were working with. You see? So inside of me, without me knowing, there were people around me, like Dr. Cornel Hart at the University of Western Cape, and all over he's been assisting people to get this qualification off the ground. So from 2021 till now, when I came here, 12 years back from that day, so it's almost 16 years ago when this thing for professionalization started.
Came to pass,
Slowly but surely policies was put in place till now that we come here. So now why professionalization for me is because I want to stand inside of that gap, speaking as an activist to say, guys, we need to get this thing right, because it's unethical to get millions from the Lotto, then you put it into your own pockets. So the professionalization of community development is actually an opportunity for people that have done this thing for 10 years, 15 years. You can come in now and say, listen here, I can do the high certificate program. I can do the advanced diploma. I can do the PG DIP. I can do my masters. If I can't do it full time, I can go to UCT. I can do the high certificate part-time. You can go to Cornerstone Institute. In fact, Cornerstone Institute was the first private university to offer the program.
You know, before we dive into that, we want to get to understand as to how simple does it sound that you can just approach a higher institution to say, this is what I'm willing to pursue. For someone like yourself as well, who did not acquire or did not get to matriculate, but is currently pursuing a bachelor's degree with university, how can you take us through the process of you being institutionalized without a matric certificate?
So what has happened is this. The first place where I tried to get into university was this very University of Western Cape. And this very building that you see here, I came here in 2011, and I was standing outside by the door here, the Center for Performing Arts. I came here and I wanted to inquire regarding music development programs because I was doing music. So my first choice for study was music. I'm going to get my bachelor's degree in community development. No, not community development. I was going to get my bachelor's degree in music education, becoming a teacher professionally in music. But then only to come here and find out, no, there's no music school here, because the music school closed down here in the UWC. So they moved the whole program over to UCT. It was in the 1990s, right? So the program closed down here. So now I don't know what to do, right? So then because of that, I didn't know what to do. So I just kept on going with my community development work. I developed myself by doing volunteering in NGOs, going to workshops. I'm still volunteering. 60% of my time I'm still volunteering in NGOs, 70% of it. 30% is income generation. So I did that because I've understand by philosophy that when you are young, and youngsters think like this today, that they must get themselves a job to sustain themselves. I had a different philosophy. My philosophy is this: I don't work to live. I love to work. And I don't look for a job, because there's enough job for me. The job is the job on myself. I don't look for a work. There's too much work to be done. The work is to work on myself.
Okay.
And therefore I pursued a lot of workshops, informal workshops, training and development workshops, small business development, bookkeeping skills, NGO leadership, understanding the NGO sector, understanding non-profit work, understanding leadership programs such as the governance of NPOs in a professional corporate context. Those are the type of things that I pursued.
Yes.
But then I applied with these certificates for jobs.
Oh.
I applied, but I didn't get jobs. So at the end of the day, I realized, hey man, even though you have all this experience, 10 years of experience, you're going to have to get the qualification. It's almost like people is looking over your head. There's the work is evident there. You've done that. You've trained somebody to play a guitar. He's professional now. He wins to, this one goes to play for Sweden, for the Queen of Sweden guitar. There's the evidence. Informally trained. The evidence is, why can't I get a job? Accreditation. You see?
I understand. So, but what we want to understand mostly is that for our audience, to get to have a desire, or individuals who are actually in a position of pursuing that qualification, and you find that long time ago, during about the time, were disadvantaged with matriculating, and now they actually want to understand as to, is it a program that is affiliated within the higher institution, or an institution itself actually does offer this program? And therefore, if you do not have a matric, you can be in a position to actually acquire this qualification. So we just want the explanation from that as to how does it comes about and everything like that, because to majority of individuals, I think they know that you must be in matric, and therefore you so let me explain it like this. Despite the fact that we had an RPL process post 1996 1994, the way in which the RPL is designed in like today, even if you have a matric, even if you don't have a matric, sometimes you don't get passed with a bachelor's. You struggle to get into because you want to do degree program. If you don't have a bachelor's, you can do either a high certificate or advanced diploma. But now the problem is, when you do short courses, you don't get funded. It's a struggle, right? So how did I go about it? Number one, at the UWC, you apply for what is called the portfolio development course at the Division for Long Life Learning. What the portfolio development course is, it's a 6 to 12 month course that you do part-time in a period that they will advise you, where you come in, where you have to write
a autobiography of yourself, where you point out based on a timeline. They call it a river of life, where you have to pocket your experiences based on where you've been, the work that you have, your community development process. Say, for instance, you came from a trick, you maybe worked at this job, you must almost write your own autobiography. And then from there, you must draw what you have learned out of each period of your learning. So between, say, 2001 and 2005, you worked here. What have you learned? The program is designed like that.
Yes.
Yeah, because you don't have a matric. So in this portfolio, you must be able to portray out of your life experience that you are at matric level already. That is how it's worked. So then once that document is compiled, that document is then given to the faculty of the degree program that you want to do. Then they decide based on that document, is this student able to study at university level without the matric? That is UWC. The same program is offered at UCT. At that institution, they are more focused on developing the student to understand the whole issue of internal development and reflection. Is more based on reflection, reflective learning in an informed formal context. So which means they focus a lot on, they would give you readings. You must read and you must talk. You must write about what you have read. It's like an academic process, these academic writing processes. So at the end of the day, out of that, they ask you to write a paper. And out of this paper, they determine, this one he's actually at matric level, so he can actually do this program. You see.
Okay. Like, per your knowledge, is that limited only to programs that had to do with community development? Or?
No, it's not limited to that. Because of the scope, community development is a very wide scope.
Broad, yes.
It's very broad, right? So with the professionalization of community development, you would find people doing what is called a higher certificate, right? Okay. Advanced diploma. Advanced diploma, I think, it's almost like a degree level. Okay. Right? Then you get the PG-DIP, which is a postgrad, which is honors level. But these programs are offered over 8 years. So 2 years higher certificate, 2 years advanced diploma, 2 years PG-DIP, right? So that is similar to what is in other programs, right?
I see.
But now what happens now? Say for instance you are a teacher in education, right? You have your 4-year degree. You can actually come to the University of Western Cape and say, I want to do a master's in community development with a focus on education. You understand? So a lawyer can come with a degree and say, no, I want to do a master's in community development with a focus on law. So it's not limited.
It's not limited.
It's very, 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 very broad. You see? And so like currently now, there's only 2 streams being advocated within the program that we're doing. You get the nutrition and you get sport. Okay. All right. So which means when you apply now, you can specialize
either in nutrition or sport.
Or sport. Okay. However, as a teacher or as an accountant, you don't need to choose nutrition or sport. Yes. You choose your field. You see?
I understand.
So maybe you're a teacher for 20 years or for 10 years. You said, man, I don't want to do teaching anymore. No, I want to change. I want to divert. There's something called accumulation of credits.
Yes.
Right? So they adjust your whole thing and said, okay, now you can do the honors program. You can do the honors program for community development, and then you divert your career.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
You divide.
I see. So you speaking of limitations and specifications, what are you specifically in specialization of in community development?
Yeah, my specialization is physical education, music development, dance and drama. But if I
and why those?
Let me just before I say why those.
Okay.
When I qualify in the next year or so.
Okay.
When I qualify, I'll have my degree, but then I will be able to go and say, okay, right, I'm going to do my master's for specialization. So now what is happening now? I'm completing a complete cycle of learning, because I don't just do sport development because I'm an athlete also.
Oh.
Right? I was I did a lot. In my journey, in my life, I've done everything that you can think of. I've done business, I've done community development, done all sorts of sports. Right? So, sports is a specialization. Performing arts is a specialization.
Yes.
Right? But when I say performing arts, it is is very broad, but music development is in the middle of that. Right? So those are the three specialization fields. So I have pockets that I can choose from where I want to function. Right? So when I eventually qualify, my head is full of possibilities, because I can do leadership in community development. So I'm currently consulting NGOs and NPOs.
Yes.
I do company registrations. I do training in NGO sector, you see. So what is my specialization? I cannot say this.
It's specifically what you're focused in.
At this stage, I'm still developing that specialization, because eventually when I come to the mass, I must be able to say, okay, this is going to be my...
You are saying.
Yeah.
But what is the motive behind you pursuing that? Like, is there a gap or a distinction that you have recognized within your community to be lacking, that you say, this is the gulf of a gap that I want to close?
Yeah, definitely. You see, the thing is this, what we've come to realize is that within our communities, we have a problem. And you can go in, you can go and research this. I cannot say off my head what is the author, but there is an educationalist that speaks often on these issues. And I didn't know before me listening to this guy, I've already formed ideologies surrounding these issues. And then coming to realize when I did the RPL process at UWC, not UW, at UCT, I've come to find that this lady, that was the head of the advanced diploma, because I was applying for the advanced diploma. Then she came to me after me speaking in a setting. Did you perhaps listen to this specific person? And that person is Sir Ken. I think Ken Melman. He's an educationalist, and the ideology is that why do we spend in a full day in an education or in the school on academics in terms of maths, science, and the stuff that we get 6 to 7, 8 hours we spend there the whole day. Why don't we have a situation where we have children playing an instrument for 6, 7 hours? Why don't we have a situation where children run and practice athletics for 6, 7 hours? You see the disparity there?
Yes.
So they say, I can't remember the guy's name, but they say they call it the 10,000 hours to come to professionalization, meaning if you do a certain thing for 10,000 hours,
yes,
you become a specialist in it. You see?
That's very good. That's very good. Yeah, so since your commencement with Bachelor of Community Development, what do you think are some of the challenges that you have encountered since that you are used or exposed to informal learning or acquisition of knowledge, and now that it is in the process of you acquiring it in a professional setting? What do you think are some of the challenges that you have encountered in terms of you getting to acquire knowledge professionally? Where areas, the experience and the knowledge you do possess? Yeah,
the great challenge for me was that what I've heard throughout my 3 years, almost 4 years in this program, is that there were many times with certain modules that I found very, very, very difficult to accept, because in theory things are easy to say, it's so and so, it's like this, it's like this, it's like this. But I'm sitting with 20 years of experience. What you're telling me now is not working. You see, that is one of the greatest challenges. So, like for instance, let me speak about public administration, the School of Government. They would speak about trias politica, on the 3 spheres of government, local government. Let's use this as an example. Very great challenge. Local government responsible for community engagement, community liaison, Communities must liaise with government to make sure that things are happening in the community for the advancement of the people. Right? But now the issue that I sit with is this, is that having worked in my community for over 20 years, I've never had a councillor help me.
To recognize you.
Yeah, help me with my programs. No? To this day. I mean, we just had conversation yesterday in a group of a specific councillor that you just don't get response from an email on him. You don't get a WhatsApp response, right? I don't want to linger on that, but the issue is this: the inability of the thing that we say must happen is not happening because people is not practicing these things. They're not doing the things. There's a word that I've learned from a great man, a Brazilian great mind, Paulo Freire, is the word praxis. He's a scholar of the ideology of doing things, learning by doing. Now, these politicians, some of them, they are not qualified. We're speaking about the professionalization of cabinet also, you see. But now the thing is this, your question is that these theoretical concepts can only be practicalized or made to come to reality if they recognize the practitioners within the setting. You see? So now in community development we have had this ideology that or not in community development, so it's a broad concept, it's out there. People have the understanding that when you do like for instance engagement with the community, what normally happens is these officials, they come in communities and they come to share, right? This is what government is deciding to do. That is what happens.
Yes.
But true community development is not that. It's when I as a practitioner go in there and ask the people what is the problem. You see, so like for instance, challenge number one is this. When you speak about poverty, you speak about unemployment, right? Let's use that to use an example.
Okay.
You can't get a definition for poverty out of the dictionary. Because poverty for Khayelitsha is not poverty for Bishop Lavis. Even though there are bridges, food relief, food challenges. We know that. We know about these things. Unemployment, we know about that. But there are specific dynamics that is in Bishop Lavis that is not in Khayelitsha. So like in Khayelitsha, I know, you have a development forum there.
Yes.
Brilliant. Those people are working together. In Bishop Lavis, it's difficult for people to work together. And here's the difficulty. The difficulty is this, is that when anything must happen, like now they are doing roadworks, currently now they're doing roadworks. If anything must happen there, nobody knows. Nobody knows what is happening. Because they're not recognizing the people here.
Oh, yes.
You see?
Definitely.
There are organizations there. I'm there for more than 25 years. I don't get a call or email from them to say, okay, no, we're going to do this program, we're going to be doing this. They don't send an email. I mean, I've been there for 25 years. You would know that this guy is doing arts and culture.
Yes.
You would know when a budget is available for funding for arts and culture.
Yes.
The council don't send.
Available.
It's not. They won't tell you. You see. So currently now they're fixing the roads, and therefore we struggle to get through here, to come here. But I don't want to deviate. But the great issue is this, man. We struggle to implement. We have a 5-year IDP, the Integrated Development Plan. In government, local government they say, okay, for this 5 years we're going to be doing this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this for the 5 years.
Okay. You know, before we shift into that, we want to understand that as an individual, that informally itself acquired knowledge about community development and have been an exposure of this experience, and now shifting to this professionalization of the content which you have been exposed to for a decade and years. Theoretically content that you acquire in professional setting, how did you get to familiarize yourself or perhaps to make adjustments in acquiring this knowledge theoretically now that you are from practical terms yourself.
Yeah.
And now that it's theory after practice.
Yeah.
Because in many situations, you acquire theory, therefore it's practical exposure. But you got practical exposure, now you come to theoretical exposure. Like, how did you then get to make adjustments in relation to that?
I think the adjustment for me was easy because I'm a reader.
Oh.
I read a lot. I mean, I stay just 5 minutes. I used to stay 5 minutes away from the library.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I didn't read novels. I didn't read cartoons.
Oh.
Yeah, I did read business books.
Okay.
I read history, informative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never read stuff that I didn't want to know about. So, and I don't read. If I read maybe one book, finish, it will be a miracle. It will be a miracle. But if I read the foreword, if I read the back of the book, I'll check the chapters, and I only read the chapters that I want to read. Yeah. So even if I don't know something, how did I manage to do this? Yeah. If you, so like for instance, when the internet started to become something accessible, like the smart keep system in the library, when it started to become accessible, I would go there, I would download videos about what I was going to do 10 years later.
Okay.
So, when I heard about the professionalization of community development, I downloaded everything I could find about community development. Everything, all the documents. The whole process, where the first workshop started, where it was at a specific stage. I read. And that is something I learned here when I came for my first RPL process.
Okay.
They said, I will never forget that guy, Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen and Habiba Mukhadam. They both facilitated on that workshop, that first workshop. I will never forget it. They said, when you acquire your degree, you acquire your degree by reading and writing. And since that day, I've been reading and writing.
To materialize in that.
Yeah.
You know, as you mentioned that, not to forget it, superstitiously, as an individual that has acquired an informal education to an extent that you became knowledgeable in the focus of what is in the best interest of your heart, per your perspective of view, what do you think of acquisition of knowledge informally, in exclusive of formal qualification?
I think there's a big gap currently now between institutionalized education, a big gap. There's still much needed work to be done and so for us to understand how to actually value and accredit experience. Example, you give a mechanic 20 years doing mechanical work. He can do better work than the guy that comes from the school. Because this guy has learned by trial and by error. This other one is learned by the book.
Okay.
Right? So I would say there's still a big gap. Still a very, very, very big gap between informal learning and formal learning. So I think there's a need for research to be done for us to understand that gap in order for us to write the programs in various fields to understand how to actually bring a person over from a informal praxis perspective into a formal perspective. Because that was a challenge for UCT, for me. That was and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say so, but I think the stage before me going to Cornerstone Institute was that fight of wanting them to understand, I want to know, how are you going to accredit me? Because based on the SAQA, South African Qualifications Framework, you must be able to identify, to say, okay, this person is at that level.
Yes.
This person is at that level, based on the certificates that they have on accumulation of credits. And it was a struggle going forth, back and forth. Now, this is a real thing that I experienced. You had a form, you fill in the form, you email the form to the department where you will be studying at. But then there's another form, it's a formal form. The formal form and the online form doesn't give a section where you can click. I'm going to do RPL.
Yes.
You see? So the institution at the time wasn't there yet.
You know, sorry to interrupt you. Before you go further in part of you explaining, you know, what do you think the disadvantage of this normalization of undermining, perhaps at some point we can say that, the informal acquisition of certain skill that you cannot be in a position to practice or to exercise your abilities without formal education? As part of you expanding that, can you please touch as to what the disadvantages are for particular that?
Yeah, if I understand you, Mrs. Correct me. If I understand the question correct, I think the disadvantages is very clear and it's very simple. Is that you would have a vast amount of people not accessing formal education. A vast number of them. We are already sitting with a problem where we have children at grade 11, grade 10, let me go a little bit down, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, that can't read because of a program that doesn't really help the children to read. So now, there are various programs out there that can help children read within 1 month, within 2 months, informally. Just now, in this week, a great guitar player by the name of Jonathan Butler was offered a honorary doctorate from the University of Stellenbosch. You can Google it. It is there. It's open on all the platforms. Right? He has left school when he was grade or standard 3 at the time, which is, I'm not sure which grade it is, but he never had a educational background.
Qualification.
Right? Very powerfully in his presentation, he said, I thank music because music taught me. So whatever he has learned, even the music, learning to speak English, he learned from learning English songs, tenses, stories. That is how he learned. He's just over 60 years old. He's been in the industry from the age of 7. He's been given that honors. He has never completed high school. He doesn't have a matric. But the University of Stellenbosch says, hey, listen here, let's recognize this guy. Because he's a world-renowned guitar player, jazz guitar player. He's a world-renowned artist. He's sold out many of his shows. And you can Google him. The reason why I'm using him as an example, because we used to look up to him. Hey, this guy. I mean, I had the privilege of meeting him the other day.
Okay.
So I'm just highlighting that. There's a big gap, man. What we're saying is this. We're not saying informal learning is better than. Yeah, and we actually don't want people to see in an academic space. People would look down on people learning informally.
Yes.
But that same guy that I spoke to you about now, Paulo Freire, speaks on the pedagogy of the oppressed. The book highlights the whole ideology that people can't learn by doing. So where systems and structures are put in place for them not to learn. Very interesting story. There was a few women that he was working in Brazil.
Okay.
And they learned to speak English in 4 months. By doing. So they were doing the needlework.
Okay.
So he would ask them in their language and explain to them what is that word.
Oh.
So in 4 5 months, They could speak fluent English. You can Google it. The facts are there. So there's a power in formal learning, and maybe the conversation would be, as we move along, as alternative systems of education, alternative curriculum. Why do we have to have a school program that runs from Monday to Friday? Why can't it be Monday to Wednesday, or Wednesday to Friday, or just Tuesday to Thursday? Why do we have to have a school program that runs from the morning, 8 o'clock, to 5 o'clock in the evening?
And at the end of the day, that does not materialize into...
You see? So, if a child can't read and write, then we take away all the stuff that is hindering them from reading and writing, and use the 5 days for them to learn to read and to write. And maybe we can add them to count.
You are a leader, right? In the section where your functions partake, you have mentioned that you have got students in which you facilitate development. In terms of your contribution to those individuals, which specific age groups do you focus on? And as part of that, what do you think your inspiration is to those particular individuals in terms of you are acquiring formal education? Do you think that they too should be in the position of following you, or what you impart to them as knowledge is sufficient for them to find an exposure to survival in terms of conversation and anyhow?
Yeah, let me start by saying I was sitting in the library in the week, and when I was turning around to pick up my stuff because I was busy with an assignment, and after that I had to go present my assignment. It was Wednesday, and when I moved to the left, and my elbow bumped into a girl, and when she was looking up, it was one of the children that I was working at the school where I was teaching arts and drama. She was one of my students.
Wow, beautiful.
That is the one. 2 weeks ago, I came in by the gate, and I got out of the bus, and then when I was looking, I was looking behind me, and then there was another girl behind me from the same school. So in this past month, I've seen 6 students where I was a teacher at, doing arts and drama and dance, that we taught to say, you can make it, you can become, you finish matric. We encourage them, go to get your matric, get into the university, go and study. There were 7 of them, they are here. And I believe there's more, I haven't seen them yet. But why I'm highlighting that is that within our development, we say, if you get an opportunity to go and get a formal qualification, do that. We're not going to tell students not to do their matric.
Because they have got the skill, yes.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. But what we're saying is, if you didn't get your matric, if you did fail on grade 10, if you did fail on grade 9, maybe there's a student that fell into drugs, or maybe there's a girl that fell pregnant. What we're saying, it doesn't stop there. You can still get into university. You can still complete your educational path, whichever that is. So, be it that you go to a skills program to do needlework, or just acquiring a specific skill to do business. Say, for instance, these beads that these people do, the art. I know there's a few girls that have been doing this. They sell this stuff online. They don't have matric. They don't even have grade 11 or grade 10. But they're doing it for themselves.
Yes, definitely.
There's one girl that now the other day, she published a book. She never was at university. You see? So what we're saying is there's an imbalance. All right? And there is a need for an alternative system of education. Even what we have, if you can complete it, right? But what I think is the institutionalized model of education is not the best that we have.
Yes.
It's not the best that we have. But the conversation is needed openly to say, listen here, we have a problem here, man. Because we have a high school dropout rate.
Yes, definitely.
Why is this happening? We have to be honest about it.
The
You see?
content does not.
And
relate.
unfortunately, if I may be open about it, unfortunately, it is a systemic issue. It's a systemic problem. It's a systemic problem. People design policies and frameworks that doesn't work for the people on the ground. It doesn't work.
Definitely. You know, I best believe that you are in a stage where you have accumulation of responsibilities, and with your skill, it does materialize without the need of qualification, right? But with exposure to theory now, that means you are in academia. So we want to know, or perhaps as part of you, how do you then get to balance your personal responsibilities with academia? You find that someone within the same space as you perhaps is struggling to be in that position due to personal responsibilities. How do you get to balance your responsibilities with the demand of academia?
So you see, the only way that is possible was to make a conscious decision that you're going to have to make the sacrifice to do it. Meaning, not having a job, not having access to any business remuneration from any business. As you know, when we had these lockdowns and stuff, we were totally cut off from economies, right? So, in my situation, not unfortunately, maybe I should say fortunately for me, I'm designed differently. I'm a different. I almost want to say I'm a different human being, because I'm designed not to quit. I'm built like that. You see, so for another person it might be different. You see, and not to say that it is not difficult. It's very difficult. Student life is not easy. You see, but the thing is this: for the sake of the masses, I must continue to do this. Right? Eventually we're gonna have to work towards the change in the system that is needed. Right? And that, even if that means we have to sacrifice our livelihoods for it.
Do you think that your shift to the professionalization of your skills and the knowledge that you possess does so at the best interest of your heart?
Definitely. Because at the end of the day, it has got nothing to do with the qualification. The qualification is just a means to an end. If I may say so, I'm not doing a qualification to get a job. Right? But that thing will unveil itself when I get there. You see. So what I'm doing is also not solely me. Right?
It's a collective.
It's not a collective. It is a calling.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a calling. It is something beyond me. You see.
Okay. So you mentioned something like it's beyond you doing qualifications, and you mentioned that for the sake of the masses, you have to continue doing so. Meaning to me that you are in a space where you have to ensure your community is developed to its maximum of your best ability. Perhaps to ask you, in your community, as part of you doing this, how do you think that your contribution has met with the demand of your interest?
Currently now, at this stage now, more recently, within my community, there are about say 10 or 12 organizations that
Okay.
I personally consult with on a regular basis. And the whole idea that I get from them is this, is that change in our community is not possible. Right? The conclusion of the matter is this, and this is a collective thought, is that the only way we're going to be able to do this is through the recognition that we have to not focus on the outside by looking at the government and these outside. We have to solve the problem inside. So, how are we going to do that? We're going to use the influence of this development program, this thing that I'm pursuing. We're going to use that influence of that to address these issues. Because what happens now, it's a very broad thing, because of me doing this program, I understand how government operates. The system, I understand the system better because of public administration, social justice, the ethics and all those type of things. Understand how it works, right? So now I better understand what we need to do for things to get better.
Do you think that it is not possible to develop our community? And I think it is very possible, because Mr. Jason and other organizations are ensuring that in their life, where they live, in their community, there is a development. And I best believe that where you get to engage with communities, there is a development, a maximum one. But with that, you have been doing that. What do you think is the message you can leave our audience with in relation to your participation with community development?
I think it is very important for individuals within all communities, in all provinces, nationally and internationally, to understand that what we naturally see with our eyes is portrayed in mainstream media is not a true reality, right? And therefore we shouldn't believe anything without checking if these things are true. And the message in that is that if change is going to come, it's not going to come from an external force or external party or institution. The change is it has to begin with you as an individual. It has to start there. The message is this, is that if we're going to do community development, we need leaders that are reformed in their mind to understand that it is going to cost more than just being part of a political party or being part of an activist group. It's gonna take much more than that. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
The change begins with you as an individual. And you are this individual who is currently watching EduKnowledge Exchange podcast. Make a change, share the content with family, friends, your cousins, and everyone. If it has to be with animals, share with animals. They will share with it in the jungle. And this message will get to spread to receive many ears as possible. Sir, we thank you very much for having come to EduKnowledge Exchange podcast to come and share your knowledge with us and the experience and the transformation which we desire to happen in people's life. And we hope that you continue to inspire confidence in community development, and wish you all the best at all time.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure being here.
Thank you. The change, as it has been stated, it begins with you as an individual. Make a change now. Transform our lives. How do you do that? How do you ensure that such message gets to many individuals, possible as it is in societies? It starts with you sharing the content, subscribing. By you doing so, the algorithm of YouTube promotes our channel. By it doing so, it grows. You too get to engage in community development. It's us developing the minds of the people. Do not stay with this knowledge alone. Do not be greedy. Let us share the knowledge, because knowledge is power. It is transformative. Subscribe to our channel. We love you. We thank you for being with us at all time.